Hello and good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, wherever you're watching this. My name is Marc Caron and this is your wake-up call. We've had a couple of weeks off where I took a break after a busy conference that we put on, the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference, which if you've been following my work and the program for a while, you know that that's some of the things that I'm interested in and things that I do in using indigenous and ancient plant medicines for healing. And it went off really great. It was a really great time, and I ended up just taking some time off because I was pretty busy and wrapping things up. So we are here back today with your wake-up call. And today I have a very special guest and friend, Mr. Shane Carling. Welcome, Shane.
Thanks, Mark.
Always a pleasure to speak with you and work with you and just really converse. Shane is an entrepreneur, a musician. You know, he's got such a big heart, and he just wants to help change the world, and one of the ways he does that is through his music. But Shane, maybe you could tell people, really your story, kind of. I know you're an entrepreneur, you've overcome some obstacles in life, and now you're looking to go be what do we call those, a virtual entrepreneur down
right?
in Tulum, right?
In Tulum, yeah,
nice.
living the laptop lifestyle. Nice. So, and thanks a lot for the introduction. I really appreciate you having me on the show, and so my story is. I think it's a very relatable one. Like when I was a kid, I was the skinny little nerd, the geek that had no friends. I grew up just always being bullied and ridiculed, super depressed, had no friends, couldn't make friends. And so because of having no friends in school and never being able to connect with people, when I got out of high school, I just got into the easy accepting crowd, the party scene, the drug crowd, which led into all sorts of, let's just call some slippery slopes. I guess intentions were good, but I didn't know anything better than just partying and doing drugs and getting high and escapism. And so, fast forward to when I was about 25, 26, I'd made a decision to try all the drugs, and I got fully addicted. And, it started off as secret addictions with cocaine and other drugs. And then next thing I know, I was just absolutely slammed, crippled with addictions. There wasn't a drug I wasn't doing, and as much as possible in almost suicidal way. I was in a really, really dark place in my life. No friends. I got disconnected from my family for a couple years. I remember just feeling absolutely just lost. Like there was no hope for my life at a certain point. And I think it was at the very bottom of the well where I had been away from my family for 2 years. Nobody knew what was going on in my life. I got busted in a grow op. Okay. It wasn't good. I actually think it was probably one of the better things that happened in my life because it forced change. Yeah. But that was the only situation I could get myself into. And so I had one of those find Jesus moments, and I just decided to turn around and, just live a better life. So I started saying yes to good opportunities, when you get at the very bottom, you only have up to go. So I got involved with some church groups. I got involved with some, like charities. I think I helped out with the Salvation Army. I started to just say yes. I got into some personal development courses. And it was in those courses where I started to realize that I wasn't alone in the struggle, that there were other people just as messed up as me, that addiction isn't something to be ashamed of. I'd absolutely destroyed my life, but there was other people who had similar stories. And so it was in that group where people were being vulnerable and exposing their life where I started realizing that being authentic and genuine and real was also okay. It was a safe place. I never, I grew up like if you shared an emotion, it was almost like people would laugh at you.
Yeah.
And, And so I didn't know what it was like to open up, and so that was why all the addictions happened. I couldn't communicate, I couldn't connect, and so I bottled everything up, and self-destructive habits just really took a hold of my life. But it was in those courses where I started to relate to people, to communicate, and I started to progress and grow. I got into sales, I got into acting. I took on like my very first play. It was crazy. It was a play called Quad, and I was challenged to do this by this lady that I took a personal development course with. Yeah. And there was 4 characters. And this is like, I'm fresh out the woods. Like, this is after getting busted, growing by, and like, being slammed with addictions. And then it was weird because after I got busted, it was like all the addictions just kind of went away. Here's why. I had my cell phone was cut off, and I had no connection and no contact with anyone who could give me drugs. So I was kind of like, my brain just rewired itself, and I got challenged to do this play, and there was 4 characters and only 4 actors, but the crowd was going to get to choose who played what part at the beginning of the show. So, you know, and here I am, a total social aloof, totally socially inept, like just not really, like super nervous around people. And I remember what it was like in front of 300 people on a stage, acting out a script, not knowing who's going to play what part, and we nailed it. And it was a really powerful transformation. You know what I mean? Like I basically had to memorize 8 hours of script. By the way, we had 2.5 months to nail this whole play. Right? So 2.5 months to learn 8 hours worth of script. Ask any actor, that's a pretty impressive feat.
Well,
to be able to do
I
that.
think it's just impressive when actors got to memorize all those lines word for word, the cues, because timing's everything too, right?
It was amazing. So I started to develop more confidence in myself, more faith in myself. Now, in the background, I'd always had my guitar, and my guitar was my best friend. It was the way I'd communicate. It was the way I could express all of that inward struggles and dilemmas and feelings and emotions that I was going through. And so for me, it became like a first language, not a second. You know, I could communicate the volumes, and it would also help me heal and grow. You know, it was a way for me to meditate, to collect myself, to reflect, to break apart the pieces and the fragments of that broken life that I had and kind of turn them into sound. I don't know if this makes sense to people who aren't musicians, but it was a way for me to see my life through 3D, 4D, 12D sound and create an experience. And so I would sort of create these songs that would be like this emotional journey through understanding and growing and seeing the pain that in this moment, but also being able to get the closure of it. And so it was a way for me to heal. And so as a song would just jam out, and all of a sudden the song would produce all acoustic instrumental music. It was like a lesson. It was like a lifetime landmark for me to go back to. And when I would play those songs later on in life, I'd have wisdom and a new reflection and a new perspective on that song. And, you know, at first it's kind of like it would help me clean up my mind, but then, you know, there's cleaning and then there's adding beauty to it. You know, like which shows wisdom. You know, you could see this ugly mess of your life. Yeah, you were a junkie. Yeah, you were a drug addict. Yeah, you messed everything up. You ruined your finances. You screwed up your family, and everybody hated you, and you made a complete disaster out of your life. But you made that song, and that song summarized that part of your life, that experience, that brokenness, that loneliness. And now I play that same moment, but instead of being in the wound, it's actually healing. It's empowering. It gives me strength and confidence in who I've become because of that experience. So that it's become something that serves me.
Yeah, well, and your music's unique too. You know, that's one of the things I love about listening to you when you play your guitar is your music is just it's unique. It's got its own flavor, its own style, its own spirit. And Shane will be playing some guitar for us as we get rolling as well. So, well, what I find really interesting just within your story is, you know, as much as your story is specifically unique to you, it's not necessarily a unique story. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of people who go down that road of, you know, I know the reason I did every stupid thing in my life was for social connection, was so I could be liked. And, you know, I was that nerdy kid too, so I can appreciate that. No, I never went down that slope of addiction or anything to that level. And I think it's interesting too that people, like, take a look at some of the greatest musicians of all time. And they're like Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, you know, the Rolling Stones, you name them, they've all gone through, you know, that like dark night of the soul or whatever you want to call it, of drug, alcohol, abuse. You know, some of them didn't ever make it, and yet they still produce some of the greatest music of all time.
Well, there's this saying, you know, if you want to make some lemonade, just squeeze the lemon. And good lemonade is a squished lemon. And so, it's a sad irony that, suffering, if healed, and it does create, it can create some very positive outcomes if you learn from what the suffering was there. And so,
yes.
So yeah, I don't have to go back to the dark night of the soul, and that's the other thing is, no matter what someone is going through, I feel like a lot of the songs that I've made have the same, and some of them are the highlights of my life and the most powerful connected I've ever been with other people or with God, or just with myself. And so transformative, that gives me insights and vision into this glorious future. And I feel like there's moments in all of these songs that are so relatable. Like, we all have these landmark experiences in our lives, and in your life, like different mine, but
absolutely.
you had a dark night of the soul. We've all had some
there.
Trauma.
Yeah,
we all have pain, we have trauma, we have suffering, we have anxiety, we have disconnect, we have that being so lost, you don't know what to do and who you are and how to make sense out of things. We've had those times where we're so found, and it's like we remembered who we are.
Well, now that's a great question, because being the wake up call, I think it's important for us to wake up to who we really are. And you said it earlier, talking about authenticity, self-expression, and being really our true authentic selves, where we've never learned that, especially growing up, because we're shape-shifting to be accepted and appreciated and friends or whatever it is growing up, especially not everybody's high school days and elementary school days were easy.
No.
Right?
All you're told is shut up. You're told be quiet. You have an idea, and people will make fun of you for your idea. And so we get walled up. I mean, kids are so mean, right? And generally that's an effect of what's going on in the home front, right? Is it's that energy, and so we're entering this new era now. Like, we have this internet. Like, when I was growing up, I might be one of the last few people who can remember before cell phones and the internet,
the rotary phone, you remember that, folks?
Yeah, like, remember, like, so, I mean, we weren't so connected back then, but now it's like this, the individual has the potential to grow and gain access to knowledge and wisdom that wasn't even readily available to any king of any dynasty, of any empire, of any time. Yeah. I mean, we are moving into a state of where we essentially have access to knowledge and power and wisdom to be somewhat demigods in this strange new future that is unfolding before us.
And this is something I heard too, where someone had said, it was a great quote, because they went out to say the information age is actually over, because it's all there. So it's right here in front of my computer screen, Uncle Google, whatever you want to call it. We've got all the information of the world really at our fingertips, like we've never had before. Kids have got the least amount of guidance with the most amount of information,
which is crazy.
And what we need more so, the end of this other quote was, we have, the information age is over. What we need now more than anything is wisdom.
Right? I was about to say the wisdom age. Yeah.
That's and to me, wisdom is more about leading through your heart. And our brain can memorize all sorts of stuff, information, and so many people are just regurgitating what they've learned versus applying it. And knowledge, they say, is power, but really knowledge applied is potential power.
Yeah. Right?
You can have all the knowledge in the world, not use it, and have no power. Right? And then, to me, it's just one of these aha moments I had. It's when we lead the knowledge and the information we have in our head with our heart.
Yeah.
And when we lead that and guide it, with empathy, compassion, understanding, appreciation for our fellow human, then we have wisdom.
Wow. And
right?
And this is the modern dilemma. Is we are in a world where love has grown cold with many. We're bombarded. Like, media has a very, I'd say, like, it's no longer objective. It's very I mean, there's good objectives out there. There's people who have good intent with broadcasting media, but the majority of the narratives in media are just, bombastic. I don't know if that's the right word, but they're just very sinister.
Well, we're seeing that. We talked about that before we went live today, right? Talking about it's election day now in the States, media. What do you believe? Mainstream, not mainstream.
We've become bullies. Like we got bullied as kids, and now we're bullying each other as adults because it's COVID shaming on both sides, which is it's a whole new thing. Like if you are pro-mask, a lot of the pro-maskers are literally shaming the people who are not wearing masks, and if you're anti-masker, then they're shaming the people that are wearing masks. I'm like, is that right? Like, is there maybe a different conversation we could be having rather than like you're bad and I'm bad?
Well, this is the bias, and you nailed it, because we've got these freedom rallies happening here in Vancouver. They've been every couple of weekends recently, and a big part of it is freedom of choice. And what I thought was really interesting was there was a woman who said, my son went down to the rally. He actually quite enjoyed himself. However, he wore a mask. And he got bullied about it.
At a
freedom rally.
That's like an oxymoron. That's like
Totally.
That's the opposite of what should be happening at a freedom rally.
And
is bullying somebody.
And this is what we've got to wake up to in the world today is, if people, we have to respect free choice. We don't have to agree. If we have different choices, we can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And not be like, I hate you, and now I'm not going to talk to
you're out of
you,
my circle, cutting you out of my life. Yeah.
And this is the common denominator I've seen coming up for, from our conference last week with 35 speakers from around the world and the experts of growth, transformation, psychedelic work, was breath and connection.
Yeah.
We need connection now more than ever.
Yeah.
And we need to wake up to the reality that this 6 foot is creating disconnection and separation.
And again, going back to the media, if you ever study marketing or sales, I mean, it's sales 101. Get people emotional. See, when people are emotional, they're not really logical. And so emotions outweigh logic every day of the week. And if you could get people into an emotional state, I've got friends who are like really, really good friends. And when we talk politics, which they left, I actually try to stay away from political talks because I like to be objective, which means I'm just going to look at the data and the facts, and I'm going to look at both sides, and I'm trying not to say best or worst or good or evil on anything. I'm just going to look at the facts. That's a challenging conversation for a lot of people nowadays, to have an objective conversation, because they want to like lash out with their emotion. And a lot of that is, number one, being pent up, fear, stress. Like if people are given a vent for the steam to go out, the steam goes out. Yeah. But there's no steam if there's not boiling. So you get people into a boiling situation. Like, let's get serious. This pandemic. I mean, we're losing jobs. I mean, businesses are shutting down. People don't know what to do. There's a lot of fear. You can't see your family. You can't communicate. You're afraid to hug. Wear a mask, no mask, there's bullying, there's shaming, and then you don't know what's going to happen. There's so much uncertainty, and all the media does is keep adding a question mark, keep adding a question mark, keep adding a question mark, and every time there's a new question mark, there's a new division. And then people grow more and more hard-hearted, but it's the emotional inflection that is being displayed by those who are in media. It's that, like, when you're like, if I watch a video about and someone's angry all the time and pissed off about something, that is literally programming me. I'm choosing to put this in my brain, and so what happens is I'll start to pick up those mannerisms. I'll start to pick up my bad company will corrupt good character and morals. And so if you're watching people who are angry and they're pissed off all the time, you have bad company with you. They're on the TV, but they might as well be in your living room, and you might as well have invited them to break bread, and you're just listening to them be angry. And you're going to pick up those tonalities. You're going to pick up those opinions because you're listening to it without being able to rebuke or challenge.
Well,
and
you're
this is
programmed,
the
right?
You're being programmed.
They call television is programming, right? All the shows, they call it programming.
Yeah.
And the more we're going to get of the negativity, the misinformation, the filtered information, And this is where, I have a hard time. I don't really even watch the news, to be honest with you, because I don't know what to believe is real or not.
Yeah.
And I just look out my window. I think about 100, 200, 300 years ago.
Mm.
You never got the news from what was happening on the other side of the world. It didn't matter. You lived in the moment, in the present, and took care of your own stuff.
Yeah.
Now we're putting our focus, attention, and energy in all these other problems and situations around the world that could be, we could take a picture, take one little piece of it, a piece of art, and it's not telling you the whole picture. It's just showing you this little piece.
Taken out of context. And so people aren't shown, that's the thing is, so AI algorithms, and let's talk filter bubbles. So filter bubbles are a whole thing, and a lot of people, they might not, be familiar with this, but a filter bubble, go look at your YouTube. Yeah. That's your filter bubble. Okay? Your filter bubble is like, you're going to see the stuff that you've been looking at, and you're going to see more things because whatever you've been looking at, there's a keyword for that, right? And so someone makes a video, whether it's politics, anti-Trump, pro-Trump, anti-mask, pro-mask, whatever news station, if it's disaster.
If you have Netflix, watch The Social Dilemma.
It's very powerful.
These guys will tell you what happened and what changed. And what I thought was interesting was how good intentions, like the Facebook thumbs up, the like.
Yeah.
The guy says, we just thought it was a great way to spread. I like that. He never thought ever that in a dozen years it was going to cause depression in young teenage people because they didn't get enough likes on a share, or you know what I mean? Like they never even imagined this social effect.
And then what happens is now you tie in marketing. And so marketing growing, I mean, look, the thing is connection of people and minds equals greater knowledge and capabilities. Because, like someone could have been like Bruce Lee at a certain point. But now someone has access to every single thing that Bruce Lee did and every video that this guy did and every video this guy did. Now he's Bruce Lee times 10. That's the same level. I mean, if you look at kids' ability to learn stuff on the internet. I grew up and I was like, it was like the old Macintosh, you know what I mean? Where you're buying it. I remember programming DOS. Like it was like,
hey, I remember playing Pong. It was like it was the one little. All it was a dial was the video game, and it was like a little bong bong, and that was it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Frogger at the bowling alley, they had Frogger. So again, it advances so quickly. The compounding effect of the collection of sales knowledge, influence, manipulation, power, control, all of these things. The growth curve of that level of how to move someone towards a purchase, right, is at an epic level. And sometimes I wonder if we even want what we want, or if we're just told what we want, and we're programmed to want what we want because it serves an AI, because something in what your decisions earlier on, and now like you and I, I think that our generations will remember more of what the world was like before. I haven't been filter bubbled all the way along. The new generations, they're born with a tablet. You know what I mean? Like it's literally, and so like instantly from birth to the matrix, the mainframe, you're connected in, and so will these children really be of their own selves, of their own sorts, or how much of the programming are they receiving that's just changing the trajectory of their life? Yeah. Right?
They're being influenced by artificial intelligent algorithms.
Yes.
Right? And people have been doing, this is the thing to wake up to, everyone. When you're watching television, when you're looking at the commercials, when they're playing all of those things, they are manipulating you. They are working for your attention. They are looking to, as Shane was saying, attach emotion so you feel good about this, or maybe there's some pain and now it feels good. Now I'm going to want this. And a great commercial, you'll remember exactly what it is and how it made you feel. And it's funny because there's some great commercials that are great commercials, but you never remember what it is, which is not really a great commercial because you have to remember what the brand is if it's to work. But this is what's happening, and this you'll see it on the Social Dilemma, and we're marketers, so we know.
Yeah.
And there's people out there who are paid and make big bucks to manipulate you on every single thing. I had a friend one time, and we were talking about this, about advertising on Facebook. And I said, see this? This is an ad. And she was floored because they make these posts, ads, that look like a post that you engage in. And if you look at the top, which I think most people know, it'll say sponsored.
Yeah.
Right? Which means it's a paid ad. And we don't know that. And they're watching all of our interests. They're listening. They're looking at our searches. Google. We're being manipulated all the time.
Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing.
I don't believe it's a bad thing if you're using it for good. There's some great
products.
Sure.
There's some great things that you really enjoy that you bought because someone had to create it, someone had to market it, someone had to sell it. And so marketing, I mean, like, you know, if you own it, someone sold it. Like, if you bought it, a truck brought it. Like, this is life. We are a capitalistic type of society that wants and uses things. We have desires. We have cravings. We have emotions. We have a freaking heartbeat. You know what I mean? Like, so we want some stuff. Like, we're just like, sometimes I want to go and eat. You know what I mean? And so if some restaurant's advertising, well, I'm kind of hungry and I see the thing, I might just go get that kind of food, or maybe I'll go to that restaurant. So marketing isn't a bad thing, but it also, there's this other effect of what we're seeing with the social media is the dopamine kicks people get from the being a lover of themselves. Everyone wants to be Instagram famous now. Everyone wants all eyes on them, and the thing is, you know, who are the modern idols that people are looking? I look at the musicians. I look at what's happening in the music industry, and I think that that's one of the scariest things.
Well, look at Justin Bieber. Like, and he was one of the first, you know, as a young kid.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how young did he start? Social media.
Exactly.
That's what did it for him.
But it's what is being mainly filtered to people in music and like the mainstream music, and I feel like this is where we're reaching the mental health issues is the, you know, we have constant negative news. We also have very carnal, divisive music that you know, when you like, here's like programming your brain 101. Okay, speak something about yourself or say stuff. You actually program your mind. That's how you do it. So if you keep saying negative things about yourself, what happens? More negative things. If you keep focusing on negative things, what you focus on expands. If you focus on great things expand. Say great things about yourself, not in an egotistic way. Obviously, like, I'm the best, whatever. I'm saying,
but
like,
hey, you gotta know you're awesome.
I am awesome. Right. I am loved. I am valuable. I am worthy. You say good things. You're programming belief into your mind. Now, I believe that the two most powerful tools for creation and destruction are simple this: words and music. Because a bomb can kill people, but a bad song, which creates an emotional response, and then you're drilling words into your mind with those lyrics, okay, can destroy and corrupt good character and souls. And that has a multiple generation effect. And so the problem with a lot of music, it has been so debaucherous. And like, for example, when I used to be the depressed, heavy metal loving 15-year-old, I wanted to go to mosh pits and I was so angry and I hated everything. Well, let's look at my music selection at the time. So,
you're listening to AC/DC, Black Sabbath,
like, I was into some seriously angry music. I mean, and in fact, at my lowest low, when I was struggling with addiction, when and there was, it wasn't like I was like some good kid at that point. Like, no, I was a terrible, like, human. I mean, I was just making bad decisions all around. My favorite song was "God Hates Us All" by Slayer. You know, I would drive around and scream, God hates us. Like, yeah, I mean, some bad things happen to a guy like that.
Well, and this is the interesting thing. I'm glad that you mention it because, you know, in the beginning it was the Word. There's a great book apparently that starts that way.
In the beginning was the Word.
Something like that. Yeah. And you know, even abracadabra. You know, I speak what I create, or I create that of which I speak.
Yes.
Right. You know, it's a spell.
Yeah.
That's why spelling is
are
important.
spellcasters.
And one of the most important tools that I learned in personal growth development, creating transformation and change, is the power of an incantation. And that's what I say, you know, so you talk about who you are every day in every way. I'm getting healthier and healthier, and you ingrain that into your nervous system. So when you're, you know, using music, and this is where the power of mantras, and, you know, you start comparing something like Slayer or AC/DC, you know, to all of a sudden spiritual mantras, you know, the vibration, because word is sound, is vibration, which then plays into music. And I've done a couple of shows with music and things, and you know, the power of it is so transformational. And I love that everybody's musical gift can be so different. Yeah. And because we're talking about music, I think it's a great segue for you to maybe play us a selection.
And speaking of,
and feel free to set it up.
Oh yeah, you bet. Okay, so I'm gonna do a song here, and so the thing is, understanding that lyrics are very important. I knew that writing lyrics to the songs that I developed was going to be really, really important. So I could never sing and play guitar at the same time. It was a thing. And You
can walk and chew gum at the same time?
I can walk and chew gum, but I couldn't sing and play guitar. A really good friend of mine got me some singing lessons with this lady named Tatiana Speed, and she's just like an angel. First lesson, I was playing guitar and singing at the same time. Wow. She is good. And
she's
then,
local here in
She's
Vancouver?
local in Vancouver, yeah. Okay. And so what I did, I said, hey, I need to write some lyrics for these songs, and she's really talented at that. So I just did this huge brain dump on what these songs are and what the meaning is. And she was kind of like, write some stuff out, and all of a sudden she was like, and it was like, and then we went over it, kind of worked on it, tweaked it a little bit, and it was just perfect. And so music is medicine. Music is for healing. Music is for connecting. Music is for enlightening. Music is for transcendence. Music connects us in a way that, you know, it creates such harmony in our souls. And not just doing that, but playing music together, singing together. There's something amazing about singing in a choir, singing in a band or a group. I mean, when you feel there's something amazing when you actually sing. You feel this connection in your throat with other people's voices. You can actually, it's almost like you...
Well, there's that resonance, right?
The resonance.
You tap into each other.
That's right. And so I was working on my album. It's called Acoustic Prayers. And the whole point is to be, you know, prayerful music for healing and for growing and change. And so this song is called Spread Your Wings, and I'll play this for you. Child of God, but chained and broken, wandering in this world alone, so far from grace, so far from light, so far from home. Child of God, it's time to remember that you are free to live your destiny. It's time to rise into the sky and spread your wings and fly. La la da 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 da. Whoa, child, spread your wings. Yeah, fly like an eagle. Child, spread your wings. I see, I was lost in illusion, so far from the truth of who I am. I take your hand and step into the dawn of a new life. Father, I see, I am infinite and boundless. I was defeated, but in triumph I rise. I lift my eyes into the sky and I spread my wings and fly. La la da 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 da. Whoa, time to spread my wings. Yeah, fly like an eagle. Time to spread my wings. And sisters, join me now in the light of a new world. We are free to rise above and remember we are loved. La la da 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 da. Yeah, time to spread our wings. Yeah, fly like an eagle.
Thanks. I love it.
So yeah, that's that song, like the music part. You know, and I've got this whole thing called Acoustic Prayers Meditation, which is just all instrumental acoustic guitar, and I kind of weave a lot of these.
So now is your album ready?
Well, so that is done. I actually put that on YouTube.
Okay.
You know, you can go to acousticprayers.com. That song, I mean, the whole thing is on there. And the next part is the song with the lyrics. That's going to be just acoustic prayers, and that's the songs that are all intertwined with that, but with lyrics. So it'll be like set songs, whereas the other one's just a big meditation track.
Yeah.
Kind of the idea is that, you know, to reinvent, you know, music gatherings, and I had this idea. I was like, why not just, like, yeah, you could do an album, but why not create a whole new way of events with it, like a whole new type of musical gathering?
Yeah, well, this is kind of what brought us together,
right?
In the summer,
yeah.
Right? Stuff I'm doing, stuff you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And Shane started this thing he was calling Music Under the Stars. And, well, tell them what you're doing.
So,
I thought it was brilliant,
yeah.
because what I thought was hilarious is I was thinking of doing something similar. You know, it's like, how, you know, and then you called me up and said, hey.
And we're like super on the same
I
page.
know.
So, okay, so here's the thing. My friend who got me the singing lessons, he challenged me. He's like, Shane, you know, like, you're really good on guitar. You got to get the singing on point, get some lyrics, and then let's put on a show, and, like, you pick a day. And he was going to rent the hall. And I had friends that were going to fly in from all over the place to come watch this show. And I was a little bit nervous. There was a lot of pressure. And then COVID hit. So, man, you know, like, no show. Had to cancel. No one's coming. All right. So, crisis or opportunity. You know, like, events were shut down. You know, social distancing in place, or I call it, you know, like, thanks for correcting me, by the way. You know, you corrected me on that. I used to say social, and you said physical distancing.
I love linguistics, and I think words are so powerful.
Yeah.
And one of our homies who lives here, David, we're talking out in the backyard, and, you know, there's an age difference, not that matters, but we were talking about it, and here I am loving linguistics, and he schooled me on that one. And it was, physical distancing is 6 feet. Social is not a physical thing. Yeah. We need to be physically distant, not social. And he brought that. And as soon as I heard that, I just, everywhere I go, that's what I'm sharing, because I think it's so important. Super
important. Social distancing is a lot of bad connotation on it. Like, Physical distancing is just like, yeah, I mean, hey, let's get serious. Sometimes you don't want a close talker. Physical distancing.
For those of you who watch Seinfeld, remember the close talker
The
episode?
close talker.
That was just hilarious.
See, a little more physical distancing, please. I mean, 4 feet's okay. 6 is, you know.
Yeah.
But so the bottom line is that, you know, crisis or opportunity. Well, how do we, like, what's a safe place if you can't do inside venues? I thought outside. And, okay, so outside we can do an event. Maybe, so I came up with this thing called musicunderthestars.live. It's a website. You can go there, you can subscribe and all that kind of stuff and find out when the next musicunderthestars.live is going to be. And so I went and I got this outdoor battery-powered, like, PA system.
Awesome.
I've got an electric bike. I've got a little trailer. Because, you know, in Vancouver, there's beautiful parks and beaches.
Oh, yeah.
And so I got this, like, super Mad Max style kit, like everything. I basically put a concert in a box. Like, it was, I super geeked out. And I would go out and I'd put a laser projector and I had candles on the ground and I would set up the most incredible scene and people would just walk around and I'd invite them to sit, you know, even these candles I think were like 10, 15 feet apart. So even beyond physical distancing to give people that beautiful, intimate experience of connection, music and integration, but also like to form a community, you know, like and people started coming to these things and hanging out, but in their little spots. Next thing you know, these amazing gatherings. It was so beautiful. Then there was the beach raves and the parties where people did, and the city got a little heavy-handed and they said no live music and basically
you can't even sing anywhere now.
You can't sing. They're like
Right.
they're afraid that if you sing, it's like you're
spittle and
yeah.
like
so, but
crazy.
you could do that outside. And then they so that got shut down, and so you know, so how do you transform that? Okay, like, hey, you know, we're like it's like a weed that's growing. The snip it here, it's still gonna grow. You know, and what I started to find was other artists, people like yourself as well, thought leaders, musicians, event promoters, kind of all on the same page that. Like, we're going to figure this out. We're going to make some beautiful outcome here. Something more powerful than anyone has ever even imagined, because I can only imagine so much. You can imagine so much. This guy can imagine so much, but we put our minds together.
Yeah.
And what starts to happen is you can unfold a whole new reality. And it can happen faster and bigger than you'd ever even imagine, because we have all the stuff we need right here on a camera, a microphone, and the internet.
It's amazing. And this is what happened with us. You know, as an events planner, we got shut down pretty fast with the whole COVID thing. And then I started doing these cannabis ceremonies and sound journeys with Theta. And we were doing these small little hybrids, really. We had a few people in the studio where we are here today. And we found we could actually broadcast and have a great container, a great event through Zoom and getting good sound and everything else. And then for those people who know me, I do work with the Tony world. And then it's like, okay, Tony's doing some stuff. Well, let's see what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he's doing the same thing I'm doing, except just on a Tony-sized scale. You know, $9 million and 22,500 people for events. And this is what we did with the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference a couple of weeks ago. Made a Zoom wall and just really innovating to find these different ways for interactivity, because people are still, even though we had a good, fairly liberal summer here in Vancouver, it's gotten tighter now too, and people are still craving for attention. And now we're all locked down again. Yeah. So, you know, I'm glad that we've gotten this start in what we're doing, so we can start bringing these things in a way that, you know, if you can only have 6 people or 20 people, you can have that, but then we can broadcast to the world.
Exactly.
Right? And that's what I'm looking forward to,
Yeah.
is dialing that in. And this is, how do you make lemons out of lemonade? How do we find the way? It's being creative.
And not only that, like, you know, what we are all learning is how powerful it is to be in proximity with other human beings.
See, I happen to think, and it's not conspiracy. I think there's a reason why society wants to keep us. You know, these people aren't stupid. They said physical distancing for a reason. Yeah. Or social distancing for a reason. Yeah. You know, they don't want. Why didn't they just say physical distancing then? Social distancing has a very, very different, more powerful saying, don't be social. Yeah. Don't be social. You need to be far. Because all of a sudden we start talking and comparing notes or beliefs or thoughts. Yeah.
Oh,
you
that's
know?
big trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys thinking
And-
together? Oh, none of
Well,
that.
and so when we started this whole conversation about the this polarity that's happening
Mhm.
with just friends and family getting estranged because they have different beliefs,
Yeah.
whether it be politics
tragic.
or
It's
masks or
heartbreaking.
whatever. It's
Yeah.
unnecessary, and this is what we've got to wake up to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
So, the healing, like the mental trauma that's happening right now is a very real thing. And so again, I think that the main thing that needs to happen right now is artists, musicians, thought leaders learning how to unite, learning how to connect, and we are entering more and more of this world of joblessness, of automation, of like who are we and what do we do outside of work? And
Well, work becomes our identity.
right.
Right? Because you ever notice people would go, "Hey, Shane, how are you?
What do you do?"
What are you interested in?"
Yeah.
It's like, "What do you do?"
Yeah.
And then they're totally going to put you into their
Categories.
category of the world based on doctor, lawyer, entrepreneur, marketer, barista. Right? All of a sudden, we
Yeah.
make judgments on people based on what they do.
Yeah.
And when I realized this years ago, I says, people say, "What do you do?" And I'd say, "Oh, I walk my dog, I play golf." I would never tell them what I actually do for a living. And what's interesting is people would get frustrated
Yeah.
because they want to know what you'd want
Wow.
to do for a living. They go, "Oh, well, what do you do for a living?" And I go, "Well, what do you mean? What does that matter?" It's like, what about who am I?
Yeah.
Right? And that becomes a whole different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we talked about the conditioning, those patterns of this is how we've been conditioned
Yeah.
to filter out.
So I think that this maybe is an opportunity for a lot of that to be broken. The social construct of society with a good old fashioned, whether imposed, self-made, self-created, or God-made. I mean, who knows? But it's breaking a lot of the social structures and dynamics, and I think it's giving some people an ability to, and this is for those who are progressive minded, I guess, an ability to kind of reset, to reshift that paradigm, because we are entering a very unique time in humanity. And there's what we're seeing is, look at the facts. We're seeing suicide rates there's been more suicides in Vancouver per month. I think there's now over 178 last month, something like that.
Really?
It was shocking.
See, I don't. That
Yeah,
would-
yeah. I try not to look at
But
the
they
facts,
don't tell us that.
I have friends in mental health work years and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and so and I also was reading some articles on that. And so we're looking at there's that means it's like 10 times more people who've even died from COVID. It's a
Opiate
shock.
addiction.
Opiate addiction.
Right. And
You're seeing a lot of people
overdose,
overdosing, dying in their apartments. Closet addictions coming out to get people. You're seeing so what's happening is it's kind of crime escalating. You're seeing New York apparently is turning into a ghost town, right? Because people just can't afford it. And you're seeing people resort back to hanging with their family, in smaller groups. But I don't know. It's an interesting time. I think that there's so much shaking going on right now that people need to connect. And again, this is why the idea I had was music, events, whether in person and personal, and maybe physical distance safe, COVID, restrictions, but to find new dynamic ways to connect people even in that experience, but also bring in what you do, the virtual exposure, the finding new ways for the person at home to integrate with those in-person experiences, to be in that experience, to actually how can we get as close as possible, being worlds apart, to that living room experience with the artist, with the healer, with that journey, with the plant medicine journey, with the things that people are doing. How can we get as close as possible to being in that experience? And it looks like you've tapped into.
I thank Zoom for that, and it's gotten better and better.
I like the breakout
Right?
rooms. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the breakout rooms.
Yeah.
There's ways to do it, and we have to be flexible. Some people it's like, oh, I don't want more screen time. I don't. It's like, well, if you're not screen time somewhere, you're screen time somewhere else. Generally, if that's what people do, but how are you going to connect? People just aren't connecting in the same way.
Yeah.
And I'm finding it even worse now than when all of this started.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about what you're doing, especially with the music, because you're so selfless about it. You know, it's not about charging. You go there and you're just sharing your gifts.
Yeah.
Right? And to me, that's one of the things I just love about what we're seeing in the world today is, you know, there's low price offers, there's free offers, there's just people who want to connect, and then there's people who are coining it and, you know, selling all sorts of different kinds of masks, right?
Yeah, and that's a twisted situation right there too. I mean, I've had friends that are very conscious, people who are making a lot of money selling masks. But people are going to wear masks, and so is that wrong or is it bad or is it, it's probably a good thing? I mean,
to me, I don't think it's wrong. It's just
kind of a neutral thing.
Yeah, it's supply and demand. That's entrepreneurism, right?
Exactly.
It's what it is, and because it is a personal protection device, it's safety. It's nothing wrong with that, but it's just what people are doing, and there's people here right now who are totally in economic crisis, and then there's people who are totally being innovative. And that's why I say to anybody watching, especially if you're being challenged financially, is what can you do differently?
Yeah. Necessity
is the mother of invention. And there's, just imagine being in the plexiglass business right now.
You would have never
Who would have
thought.
ever known?
Like,
never in a million
best
years.
business ever right now.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them. I mean, it's a pretty profitable business.
And I take a look at a guy like Tony Robbins, right?
Yeah.
Just because, he's always an inspiration on so many different levels. But he tells a story how he was getting pissed off. He couldn't do an event anywhere in the world. And he does massive events like nobody else does. And he came up with a way. And he spent $9 million to create a virtual studio so he could still do his work. And they don't see it changing.
Yeah.
Right? And it was skeptical because if anybody's been to a Tony event, it's totally interactive. It's not for sitting on the sofa eating bonbons. It's not that kind of an event.
Yeah.
Right? And to see how everybody participated and the people that we reached was really, really powerful. Like, we figured 22,500 people signed up. We had about 40,000 people, and co-workers, family, everybody else was involved, and he reached people who would never, ever, ever go to a live event. So there were so many great opportunities.
Yeah.
Right? And then what I learned from it, I was able to bring it to our community, and what people are doing all over the world now, modeling what he's doing it in a different scale, because we have to find new ways to connect and bring music together. And I believe and artists and facilitators in a way that works. And music is, it's when you see that audience around you.
That's right. Now, the question is how? For those who aren't privy to this awakening, this new way of connecting, to those that, something that, obviously I have kind of an idea for this, but how do you get the people who are not privy to this exposed to this movement, exposed to this new arrival of connection and also heart-centered spiritual growth that is starting to really dominate in some circles? How do we take that light and spread it to 7 billion souls? And media is a very big exposure. People are watching. What are they watching? They watch the news. What do people love? A little bit of controversy. What do the people like? What is the news all about? Bringing out the story, right?
Yeah.
The hot trigger words, right? Like what's going to sell? What's sizzling right now? And so, there has to be a story that people are going to be able to get into. That also at the same time, for them to even become aware of it, there has to be something that just gets their attention. Yeah. Right? There has to be some sort of thing. Hook. And so what's the hook? What is it that would get all of the news talking about something? Like, you could think about, how do you, I start to see this monster of the media, the news, and you see its patterns, and you see its flow. And I think that there's ways for a pattern interrupt to kind of start to come in.
Well, in marketing, they call it news jacking or headline jacking, right? They're all taking a look at what's in the news, and they're all feeding off that for searches and marketing and everything else. That's one of the ways they're doing it. I always call it kind of the bait and switch because, have you ever been to a personal development program that, you thought you were going to something, you got there, it was kind of completely different? Right?
Yeah.
Because if you knew what you were going for, you wouldn't have gone for it.
Yeah.
Right? So there's this kind of, sometimes this, like a misleading, or the promise gets delivered, but that's not what I expected, right? And I've been to a number of those, right?
It happens.
So and then I think that the next and probably the most powerful way we're going to create the change is by creating experiences for people that transforms them in some way, shape, or form, and then they tell their friends.
Yeah.
And then, because all of a sudden people won't believe that they could have this experience online in a Zoom room with a sound healing, let's say.
Yeah.
And then you experience it, you tell your friends, they experience it, oh my God, it actually works.
I'm super grateful for the quality of stereos nowadays. Just going to throw that out there. One of the lucky things is I actually bought a killer soundbar and subwoofer right before COVID hit. And that was, it was one of those like spontaneous, like, oh, I probably shouldn't do this, but I kind of want to do this. And I bought it anyways and put on the Best Buy card, and I just finished paying it off. And, but yeah, then COVID hit, and I was like, man, I'm super glad I got this thing.
Yeah. Well, hey.
Lockdown with a good stereo is a good thing.
I got a whole bunch of new equipment thanks to COVID, only because, finding necessity, looking for a way to make things work. Yeah. And I wanted to be able to deliver a decent quality product and experience.
And now you can take that, like the sound that someone's getting in a enclosed space with a master artist or musician, and to the degree that person's home stereo can allow, literally deliver that, or like on a headset, etc. And so we're there now. Like the bandwidth is opened up on what we can put across for the sound waves through the internet.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just going to keep getting better. I mean, I'm really excited about the new phones and technology. So there's a little bit of that geek factor of like, hey, like we are getting into some really cool times, but at the same time we're getting into some really dark times, and at the same time we're getting into some really strange and odd times. And so like, what are we going to focus on? What do we choose to focus on? And I'm going to choose to focus on what's good. I'm going to choose to focus on what is going to be, what's good for the greater good. I'm going to focus on connecting. I'm going to focus on, 7-day weekend. Like, there's freedom. We have new freedoms available now, even though this seems like
this is leaders. Like, be a leader, folks, and leaders tell the truth.
Yeah.
Right? They see it as it is, not worse than it is. That's what we call vision.
Yeah.
Right? And awareness, because you got to see it and see the truth. Then you have vision, and then you have action.
Yeah.
Right? And we need to be able to take a look at everything, see it as it is, not worse than it is.
Yeah.
Right? And how do we make that how we want it to be?
Yeah.
And we can look at the dark side of the moon all day long, but on the other side, it's light and bright.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the difference. What do you choose to focus on? As you said, wherever your focus goes,
it's going to grow.
Your energy flows. It's what expands. So, we're running close to the end of our hour, Shane. So what I would like is if you could let the audience know, anybody who's watching out there, kind of your mission and desire for the world and for humanity, and play us out with another one of your great tunes.
Oh, you bet. So, so my mission for the world is this. I believe that music can heal, music can connect, music can transform, and so I want to just showcase, to the world through different media forms, different artists, thought leaders, etc., connecting you and allowing you at home to engage with this movement, this enhancement of this evolution of human consciousness and spirituality and growth, to connect everybody with God at the deepest level, and to help you connect with not just yourself, but with your family, your friends, your community, and the rest of the world at a level like we've never been able to even comprehend before. You know, heaven isn't that far from earth. You know what I mean? It's literally, it's just a couple steps ahead of where we are right now. And we can move forward into a brighter future. And I believe that every single person has the ability to become the fullest expression of themselves. And that's your journey. That's the mission in life. And so to inspire people to do that through music, through media, through art, through conversations like this, through ceremonies, through events, and we have an ability right now, and we are transforming the future, and so you can play a part in that. And so it's an invitation for you to join us. That's literally what this is. I got a really great song.
Awesome.
So I was humming this one. Again, it was one of those things, and I don't know if this was some predictive programming or something like that. But so I was humming this song, and again, then COVID hit, and it seems like it's almost the song of the times. It's called "Oceans Between Us."
Okay.
Although there's oceans between us, we're starlight and we're dreamers. That's where we'll meet in the dream, and we will always remember the times we spent together until we meet. Ooh, eventually, we're broken sinners, fallen saints. We got each other and we'll be okay. I know you'll see the best part of me. We get broken hearted and beaten down. With God's love, we can stand our ground, and together we unite the world. Although there's oceans between us, starlight and we're dreamers, that's where we'll meet in the dream. And we will always remember the times we spent together until we meet. Ooh, eventually, we're the light of God, living the life of man. We return to where we began. Heaven on earth, we dance hand in hand. We are angels, lovers, and mystic saints. We reclaim our true name, and we'll never be the same. Though there's oceans between us, we're starlight and we're dreamers. That's where we'll meet in the dream. And we will always remember the times we spent together until we meet. Ooh, eventually, we're broken sinners and fallen saints. We got each other and we'll be okay. I know you'll see the best part of me. We're broken hearted and beaten down. With God's love, we can stand our ground, and together we unite the world. Although there's oceans between us, we're starlight and we're dreamers. That's where we'll meet in the dream. And we will always remember the times we spent together until we meet. Ooh, eventually. Whoa.
Woo. Yeah. All right. Well, Shane, thank you so much for joining us today on your wake-up call. It's always a pleasure. I look forward to, we're going to do an event next week. We're going to do a ceremony, acoustic prayer ceremony out in Maple Ridge at the Rainforest Ranch. So if you want to find out more information just about Shane and his music, Music Under the Stars.
Use .live.
.live.
Yeah. There's all my social links there. You can follow the story and come along for the journey.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Shane. Always a pleasure. And until next week, this has been your wake-up call. Do something nice for each other. Take care. Bye now.